My name's Dave Dubeau, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today we got a special treat. Colby Kirk is zooming in from beautiful Kansas City, Missouri. And Colby is what I would call a real estate renaissance man, because you've probably heard of vertical integration. Well, Colby takes that 4 steps further with his real estate investing businesses. He's involved in a lot of different things. We'll kind of unwrap that a bit during the conversation. But these days, his main focus is on growing their multifamily portfolio, specifically focusing in and around Kansas City. So Colby, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Great to be here.
So let's start off by just unpack all of the different things that you and your companies do when it comes to real estate investing.
Sure. So we got started in 2018, and like a lot of people started out doing kind of the agent thing, trying to do I used to buy leads from Zillow and quickly realized I didn't want to do that for my real estate career, wanted to get into the investment side. And so got into wholesaling. Well, once I got into wholesaling, we came across some of these packages of properties that we couldn't figure out how to wholesale. And so they were just too big of packages, and we were trying to get buyers for them, and it wasn't working out. So we ended up closing on one of the packages of properties, and that got us into property management and flipping. And so since 2019, we've always done wholesaling. We've always had flips going, always done in-house property management. And then with that first package of properties, some of that was multifamily, small multifamily, like there was an 8-unit and I think a few duplexes. So we started getting into multifamily at that time. And then along the way in 2020, 2021, we started getting into a little bit larger multifamily. So I think we got into a couple 8 units, a 32 in 2021, another 32 in 2022, and then most recently a 60 unit last year. And then we're closing on a 41 unit next week. And then we've got along the way, we've also done commercial property. So we've got like a big office space with office tenants. And then we also have retail commercial storefront at another location, mixed use property. And then we do private lending. So my business partner started a private lending fund about a year and a half, a little over a year ago. And it's a fix and flip fund. So we basically loan to rehabbers that are doing 1 to 4 unit flips. That's the main kind of gist of our business. And then all of that.
Do a little bit of property management on top of that, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for our own properties. And then my business partner has he white labels some of our VAs for our investment company, and then has them work at the property management company for other property owners as well.
Very cool. All right. So out of all of that, hence why I call you kind of a renaissance man, because you're doing a heck of a lot. What would you say is the biggest part of your business? Where is the majority of the revenue being generated for your companies?
The majority of the short-term revenue is wholesale primarily. So like last year we did about 45 wholesale deals. That was the bulk of our revenue. And then another kind of, I would say, secondary chunk comes from our multifamily repositions, where that's a longer term, like an 18-month turnaround, maybe 24-month turnaround, where we're taking a multifamily, doing value add, and then refinancing out and getting our cash back out. So those don't happen as frequently, as quickly, nearly as quickly. But when they do happen, they're bigger
Chunks
pops.
of cash.
Yeah. And then we also do, we have acquisition fees on those. And then we make a little bit of cash flow along the way, but that's not really something that we try to bank on, especially on the value add. So that does come in, but it's not a big revenue generator.
One of the cool things we were talking about a little bit off camera, Colby, was you said that you really like to surround yourself with other real estate professionals. And you've done something very clever. You've bought a commercial space, like office space, where you've got your offices, but you really look for other real estate professionals as your tenants. So tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I always kind of had a fascination with co-work spaces and business incubators, and I joined a number of co-works like years ago and did some business like startup incubators years ago, and I just love that kind of atmosphere, having like people around you that are kind of
Yeah.
in the same business but in a different vertical, I guess. And so I wanted to build out some sort of investor hub was kind of the idea, and same with my business partner. And so we kind of had this in the back of our minds that we were going to do this at some point, and we had a cold call lead that came in on this awesome building in downtown Kansas City, or just east of downtown Kansas City, and it had office space, warehouse space, lounge space, seminar space. We're like, this is perfect. So we ended up we bought the building without like a real plan, I would say. We were just like, we love the building. It was kind of an emotional buy more than a financial buy, but we thought if we could build something out, we could bring other real estate professionals here. So the first tenants we ended up getting were a couple attorneys that are buddies of mine that specialize in real estate. So we got them in. And then the next tenants were a commercial debt broker that specializes in multifamily, like $1 million plus loan size, agency loans. And so we put them in, and then we got some agents in, and then our businesses. And we're talking to like a commercial insurance company right now, potentially a title company. It's a slow process. Like this, we bought it in June of 2024. And so we still have a ways to go on building it out, but we've got a really cool space. We've always done an investor Christmas party, so we did that here this year. And we're just trying to create like a space where investors can come and kind of have a one-stop shop and also do events here. But yeah, like you said, my philosophy has always been try to surround myself with the experts in the different areas of real estate. And I try to walk down the hall and pick the attorney's brain for a few minutes, free advice, and then stop by the commercial debt broker, ask them how rates are looking, what agency debt financing looks like, what's the new debt products coming out. And so I just try to really like, my thing is I want to learn from everybody. I try to learn from the guy that does our sewer scopes, the title company escrow processor, the hard money lenders, and really just understand each piece of the business, because I feel like then when you run up against a problem, you're more equipped and you can use that knowledge, and you don't necessarily have to go call the attorney every little thing because you already kind of have a pretty good understanding of it.
Plus, they're likely to be happy to give you those kind of answers because you happen to be their landlord as well.
Yeah, yep.
That's smart.
And a lot of
Okay, cool.
referrals happen.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cross pollination there. So out of the whole space, like how much have you got fully tenanted now, and how much do you still have vacant in that commercial property? Like,
It's
give or
kind of
take.
hard to quantify if I had to quantify it, because we've got 10 office spaces, I think, and we've got, I think, four of them tenanted, and then we take another two, so six of the 10 office space. But then we've got a whole nother part of the building that's warehouse that we use somewhat for our property management, but it's really underutilized.
Got it. Yeah.
And then we built out a lounge for all the tenants to make it just really cool. And then we've got a seminar space that has like tables and chairs and screens to do educational stuff. So to answer your question, we don't have at this point, I mean, probably only out of the 20,000 square feet, we might have 2,000 leased out.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I mean, the warehouse space,
yeah,
but I guess I was
yeah,
thinking more of the office side. Cool. So you could bring on literally four more professionals without any problem. You got space for that. So very, very cool. Very
yep.
smart. The other thing we were discussing a little bit that you guys have really dialed in, it sounds like, is working with virtual assistants from overseas. And a lot of people are kind of familiar with that. I know I've been working with VAs for years. Most of mine happen to be in the Philippines. Most of yours, I think, are Latin America. So tell me a little bit about the role that virtual helpers play in your company and why you like folks from Latin America.
Yeah, so I've always had a fascination with hiring overseas. I read this book called The World is Flat when I was like in college or something. I always knew I would use VAs in a future business. Tried it out a few times in other businesses, and I ended up not, those businesses didn't succeed. But in this business, we were going into COVID, and we had an office manager basically who was like fielding all the calls for the tenants. She was like writing handwritten letters when we would do like marketing for sellers. She was talking to the utility companies,
She was
and
fried.
she was fried.
Yeah.
And then so she quit, and
Yeah.
that position is just, it's a stressful, everybody that we put in that position, we had her and then another woman we hired for the same position. They both basically like got to their wits end and imploded one day.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so for the price of that, filling that position again, we could hire three virtual assistants,
Wow.
and that could divide that workload into three jobs and pay the same price. So that was kind of the idea at the beginning, and doing cold calling, because in the beginning we were both doing the cold calling. So it was also COVID. So we're like, okay, COVID, like already people were going virtual, like Slack was coming out, Zoom was getting better. So it was just getting easier to operate virtually anyway. So we hired a few VAs. Well, I hired one, and I did it through a VA staffing agency, and it ended up working really well. And so I hired him, and then from him, I got three referrals of people he knew that he had went to school with. And it just happened that we got into this network of oil engineers, oil and mechanical engineers from Venezuela that were living in other countries. They were bilingual, very, very highly intelligent, ambitious people that were kind of like immigrants in different countries and weren't fully utilizing their
Mm.
abilities. And so because of that, we got lucky that we ended up hiring these really high level people. That were fluent in English. And so we just kept hiring through that network. And now we have 9 VAs that do basically our whole back end. They do, like for our wholesale business, they do all of our calling, our lead management, our systems management, our data sourcing, underwriting, even they underwrite our deals. They basically manage everything except for going in person to the appointments, and sometimes they'll even make our offers to the sellers, write our contracts, and then they sell our properties. On the dispo side, on the property management side, they talk to the tenants, do the utility shutoffs, do scope of works, help us pull permits, do all the leasing, and then a lot of stuff in Appfolio, a lot of the kind of rules and admin stuff in Appfolio. They kind of do a pre-vet for the tenants and then make a recommendation. And some people are like, that's crazy. You got VAs doing like, vetting tenants, but we don't treat them like VAs. Like I think in the traditional sense,
Yeah.
we like I want them to live and breathe Kansas City real estate. So every day they're checking interest rates, they're checking what the weather is, they're checking if the Chiefs won, the Royals won, they're checking like what's the news in the city, did a property burn down? And I used to do this, I don't do it anymore, but I used to do office hours with them where like for 2 hours a day, they'd sit there with me on Slack. They have any questions, I'm telling them the answers, or we're calling people together. I try to bring them into our world so they can feel like as much as possible, they can walk around Kansas City with me as I'm looking at
They
properties.
know more about Kansas City than most people who live in Kansas City. I can guarantee that
Probably.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I just out of curiosity, Colby, what was your background before you got into real estate?
A failed entrepreneur.
So you tried a bunch of
So
different stuff.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
I've been trying to start businesses since I was 16,
Nice.
and I went to grad school for international development. Thought I went to the Peace Corps for international development. Thought I was going to do like some sort of international job. I had some health problems early on that kind of prevented me from going overseas extensively. So I knew like I was already entrepreneurial. I like starting businesses. And I also knew like with my health, I needed to be my own boss. So I just kept trying to start companies. And I tried to start probably 4 or 5 different ones in my 20s and early 30s, and then real estate finally stuck, mainly because I stuck with it. I didn't stick with other businesses more than
Yeah.
2 or 3 years. And I think that's a lot of people's downfall, but that was definitely my downfall.
Well, yeah, you definitely hit it hard with this one. That's great. And the persistence is amazing. So as we wrap this up, Colby, we are early days in 2025 right now, beginning of March as we record this. What are your goals, your vision for this year for you and your businesses?
I would like to get the wholesale company to where it runs completely, or not completely, but mostly without me. So I'd say 90% without me, and still hit kind of a similar deal flow or more to what we hit last year. So 50 to 60 deals, with me being pretty much hands off, because
Yeah.
that's a big revenue generator. And then focus on doing more bigger and bigger scaling of multifamily. We kind of had a goal of hitting 300 units this year. I don't know if we'll hit it or not, but that's kind of that's the goal
What
we're
what are
going
you
with
what are you
right
at
now.
right now? How many units do you have at the moment?
We buying 300 units this
Oh,
year. So
adding an
we're at,
additional 300 units. Yeah.
yeah, we're at about 120 across I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 bigger properties and then a few smaller stuff mixed
Got it.
in.
Hmm.
And that's with other partners. And then my partner has some additional units to that. And so yeah, we're buying 41 units next week, and then I don't know, we've got the kind of ambitious goal to buy 300 this year, so we'll see if we can hit that.
Well, it's a good goal to have. Colby, if people would like to connect with you and they only had one place to go, where would you recommend they go?
Probably Facebook. So Colby Lee Kirk is my Facebook, and yeah, that's where I do most of my. I don't do a lot of social media beyond that.
Awesome. Very good. And otherwise, I think you've got a capoutinvestments.com as your website, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep, yep.
Perfect. Colby, thanks very much so much for being on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you having me.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.